is this?
You have gained notoriety for your skepticism about vaccines. And over the summer in an interview, you said, quote, "There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective." Do you still believe that?
I never said that.
So stop me. We have the clip.
I don't want to be mean towards a guy. Actually, well, no, I don't want to be mean towards a guy. But for all the people saying that, like, Biden can't do it because of his debate performance, no offense, but, like, you know that if you believe that RFK Jr. couldn't be president just on voice alone, right? Like, that's immediately disqualifying. It would just never be the case. Like,
so stop me. We have the clip. Please play the clip.
You've talked about that the media slanders you by calling you an anti-vaxxer. And you've said that you're not anti-vaccine, you're pro-safe vaccine. Difficult question. Can you name any vaccines that you think are good?
I think some of the live virus vaccines are probably averting more problems than they're causing. There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective. What I'm saying is that none of the 72 vaccines has ever been tested in a safety study.
Okay.
that was a big cut. What was the rest of his quote there? RFK Jr., there are no vaccines that are safe and effective. This was on Lex.
Difficult question. Can you name, what about the polio?
What are my views on vaccines?
Words. What about the polio?
What is, safe and effective?
Those are big words. What about the polio?
What are my views on vaccines?
Well, you've said previously that no.
It's not our business. Are probably averting more problems than they're causing. There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
Those are big words. What about the polio? Can we talk about the?
Well, here's the problem.
Yes.
Here's the problem. The polio vaccine contained a virus called simian virus 40, SV40. It's one of the most carcinogenic materials that is known to man. In fact, it's used now by scientists around the world to induce tumors in rats and guinea pigs in labs. But it was in that vaccine.
Okay, switching into medical mode for a second. Okay, when something being carcinogenic or something being toxic or something being whatever, generally, if we're going to be saying something is, in this context, it would be very appropriate to qualify that particular thing. Something could be carcinogenic or even highly carcinogenic, but given like a one-time exposure to it, the likelihood of developing any kind of cancerous thing from it is like almost approaching zero, right? Things can be toxic at different dosages, over different exposure times or whatever. Like, just to say that something is carcinogenic or just to say that something is toxic or just to say something is whatever is a little bit meaningless, especially when we're comparing like the presence of a thing in a vaccine versus, will they induce tumors in labs or something,
Rats and guinea pigs in labs. But it was in that vaccine. 98 million people who got that vaccine in my generation got it. And now you've had this explosion.
Immunization safety review, SV40 contamination of polio vaccine cancer immunization. Oh, so this wasn't even like, or was every single vaccine contaminated, or was it just some of them? How many polio vaccines were contaminated with SV40? The CDC did not say the polio vaccine gave millions of Americans a cancer virus. Okay, the agency said that 10 to 30% of the 98 million shots administered appeared to be contaminated with SV40, but the studies have found no causal relationship between SV40 and cancer in humans. Damn, how do you have... What happened? When some polio vaccines were contaminated with SV40, which came from monkey kidney cells used to make the shots at the time. Huh. Okay, and then apparently the SV40, the vaccines for polio, the ones that would have had SV40 haven't been linked to any cancer increases as well, but okay. That's what he's talking about.
I saw that vaccine and my generation got it, and now you've had this explosion of soft tissue cancers in our generation that kill many, 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 many more people than polio ever did. So if you say to me that the polio vaccine was effective against polio, I'm going to say yes. And if you say to me, did it kill more people, did it cause more deaths than avert, I would say I don't know because we don't have the data on that. So,
but let's talk. Well, so we kind of have to narrow in on: is it effective against the thing it's supposed to fight?
Oh well, a lot of them are. Let me give you an example. The most popular vaccine in the world is the DTP vaccine, diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. It was introduced in this country around 1980. That vaccine caused so many injuries that Wyeth, which was the manufacturer, was said to the Reagan administration, "We are now paying $20 in downstream liabilities for every dollar that we're making in profits, and we are getting out of the business unless you give us permanent immunity from liability." So the vaccine companies then were given, and by the way, Reagan said at that time, "Why don't you just make the vaccine safe?" And
what vaccine is he talking about? It sounded like he was talking about Tdap. This one?
Wyeth said, because vaccines are inherently unsafe, they said unavoidably unsafe. You cannot make them safe. And so when Reagan wrote the bill and passed it, the bill says in its preambles, because vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. And the Brucewitz case, which was a Supreme Court case that upheld that bill, uses that same language. Vaccines cannot be made safe. They're unavoidably unsafe. So this is what the law says. Now, I just want to finish this story because this illustrates very well your question. The DTP vaccine was discontinued in this country, and it was discontinued in Europe because so many kids were being injured by it. However, the WHO and Bill Gates gives it to 161 million African children every year. And
one thing that I would like to see more is I think people need to force whys. Why does Bill Gates give it to, because he wants to murder black children? He wants to murder African kids? Like, why? Talk me through that. I want to hear the full connection. Yeah.
Bill Gates went to the Danish government and asked them to support this program, saying, we've saved 30 million kids from dying from diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. The Danish government said, can you show us the data? And he couldn't. So the Danish government paid for a big study with Novo Nordisk, which is a Scandinavian vaccine company, in West Africa. And they went to West Africa and they looked at the DTP vaccine for 30 years of data. And they retained the best vaccine scientists in the world, these kind of deities of African vaccine program, Peter A.A.B., Sigrid Morgensen, and a bunch of others. And they looked at 30 years of data for the DTP vaccine, and they came back and they were shocked by what they found. They found that the vaccine was preventing kids from getting diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. But the girls who got that vaccine were 10 times more likely to die over the next 6 months than children who didn't. Why is that? And they weren't dying from anything anybody ever associated with the vaccine. They were dying of anemia, bilharzia, malaria, sepsis, and mainly pulmonary and respiratory disease, pneumonia. And it turns out this was okay,
I can't. The problem is for every single claim this guy makes, I have to do more new novel research into vaccines to find out where the retarded fucking claims are coming from. And I don't feel like fact checking everything you say right now because we're never going to make it through that Chevron case.
So let me ask you if you think it's wise for people to take these vaccines, because
This guy's got more vaccine conspiracies than I heard from fucking Robert Malone. Jesus.
you had this to say on a different podcast about whether people with young babies should be getting them shots. Watch.
For many, many years, I think parents were so gaslighted and they were scapegoated and they were vilified and marginalized, so that even children, parents of kids who were very, very badly injured knew what happened to their kid, but they were just reluctant to talk about it. And I think now those days
Do you think RFK knows how vaccines work? I have no idea.
are over. Our job is to resist and to talk about it to everybody. If you're walking down the street, and I do this now myself, which is, I don't want to do, I'm not a busybody. I see somebody on a hiking trail carrying a little baby, and I say to them, better not get them vaccinated. And he heard that from me. If he hears it from 10 other people, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he will save that child.
Maybe he will save that child. You think preventing vaccines for a child will save that child? Do you still say this to parents today?
What I say again is I had 3 vaccines, Casey, when I was a kid, and I was fully compliant. My kids got 72. The current recommendations are, I think, around 77. And
I have a vaccine record for my child, and there are not 77
there are
shots on there.
77 doses. There are 72 doses of 16 vaccines. Oh, that's just a fact.
You have
How many vaccines are recommended to children? I do like that we went from 77 vaccines to 16 vaccines at 72 doses by the end. So at least we... So up through 16, you'll have, this is just a vaccine, but these could be multiple. It could be a series maybe, right? So 1 and 5 is 6, 11, 15, 17, 18, 22, 23, 24, 28, 27. No, I'm sorry. 28, 31, 32. So 32 up to the age of 16. Although some of these are repeats as well, like Hep B, PCV 13, PCV 13, PCV 13. Oh no, they still give an inactivated polio vaccine. Not good. Oh, it's all down here. Where does he get the 72 vaccines from? Are they a combined shot? Like for like the DTaP? I thought it was Tdap. Is it DTaP? This should be one shot. Measles, mumps, rubella counts as 3. Is an MMR one shot or is... Why is it important for children to get a Hep B vaccine? My guess is so that they don't get hepatitis B. Wouldn't that be why you get it? He's counting each disease within a shot as a dose? Oh, okay. Search up USPTG vaccination schedule. Oh, this one right here. Well, this tells you the different dosages or how many times you get a particular shot. If you're getting, would you call this a series if they're months apart? Or what does it mean if you say like, so like the Pfizer shot was a series. You got one, and then I think you got another one a week later or 2 weeks later. Was it a month later? I don't remember. Hey, Destiny, I believe the actions of Warren Harding during the Teapot Dome scandal would suggest he didn't believe he has presumptive immunity. Sadly, he passed away before legal action. Okay. Shit, RFK on bridges? Yeah. One sec. When I saw all that stuff vax not working, I refused to get it. Have you ever seen people get sick and die from vaccine-presentable diseases? It's insane how many people I knew who got really sick from immediately after having gotten the jab. Well, that's not really surprising at all because a lot of what is a sickness is your immune system responding to pathogens in the body. If you got the vaccine, especially after you've gotten vaccinated once before, the likelihood of you developing bad symptoms for a day is pretty high. That's typically what's supposed to happen. That's how vaccines work. It's kind of the point. Not a typical vaccine, though? Yes. There are lots of vaccines that will make you feel kind of sick after you get them. I think after you get the flu shot, I think they say you can feel under the weather for a day. No, I mean like she got MS. I don't think she got multiple sclerosis from a vaccine, my friend. Or there might be some that have that. I don't know. Or maybe there is some, but this is something I want to hear your debate on. No, you don't. I've run through more vaccine conspiracies than probably any other debater on the internet, I think. I don't know anybody that's ran through as many as me. All of them are bullshit. Every single one was bullshit. If you want to throw a debater at me, find a YouTuber with over 500,000 subs and I'll fucking argue with them, okay? What would it take for you to vote Trump? I don't know if I ever... Well, I mean, if Trump changed his positions on things. But I think I'd be more likely to just leave the country. What are we looking for? It's research, legal, Supreme Court. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Question from the UK. I've been watching a recent analysis of the SCOTA ruling, and whilst I appreciate that a president can only serve 2 terms, is there a way this could be used to extend one's term? Theoretically, no. Shouldn't be, but... Destiny is not as smart as I thought he was, especially after saying he'd vote for Biden, even on a respirator. I can tell Destiny just doesn't like to admit when he's wrong. I don't think that Trump represents somebody who embodies what I consider to be core American values. I don't think Trump likes this country. I don't think he's patriotic. I don't think he supports America around the world. And I think he undermines core values that I think are essential to being an American citizen. That's why I would probably never support Donald Trump. If Hitler ran against Trump, maybe, then I would vote for Trump. Because, I mean, he would be less bad than that. Okay, it's files, Obsidian, research, legal, U.S., Supreme Court, this bullshit, and then this bullshit. Okay. Do you not think the Dems could do much better if they found a better candidate? This is the candidate the Democrats voted for. This is who we've got. This is who the primary process delivered in 2020. And now this is kind of like everybody knew this was a risk in 2020. I think Biden even said in 2020 he was only going to be a one-term president for a little bit. And then I think he dropped that. But have you done any research on the Russian troll farms and their impact around election time? My emotional or psychological capacity is like beyond stressed and like I can't handle it. I'm already having enough difficulty right now. Russian like interference in our media should be like a conspiracy theory that groups around the country should be primed to want to take an interest in, and they absolutely don't. The idea that I think Russians like fucking with our election shit is like so patently obvious. And the idea that nobody wants to talk about it because they just want to screech Russian gate and then shit and piss and cum all over themselves while doing it. Like, I just can't. I have to like maximize. I've got to start maximizing my emotional health because I can't handle these people. Jesus Christ. People talk about how Israel is like secretly influencing the entire world. Meanwhile, like Russia today, like outwardly pays for news people and host people and like has like media and is like saying shit in our country and is like, oh, it's even more obvious in Europe. It pisses me off as a European. Yeah. I might actually support like nuking Israel and like having the Palestinians just take over everything just so that we can stop talking about Jewish conspiracies. That would actually be the strongest argument. If you wanted to convince me why we should stop supporting Israel, it would be so that the Arab states can rise up and wipe them off the map. And then we can focus on like Russia, China, Iran, Qatar, like the people that actually do propaganda and not all of like the fabricated propaganda that people are like convinced comes from fucking Israel. Like Israel somehow controls world politics and they can't even get a grasp on their own fucking domestic politics. Like RFK thought the COVID vaccine was protecting Jews and the Chinese and there's footage of it. He now says it never happened. Wait, what? RFK Jr. vaccines. Wait, I watched this. This is the one where he says he thinks that maybe they were engineered because apparently we can engineer viruses, and he said maybe they were engineered to avoid Chinese and Jewish people. Did he say that? I think we watched this. We might have watched this exact video.
2.5 years.
Okay, I'm not going to interrupt again. This will be my only interruption. Then we'll watch the whole thing. Bobby Kennedy does this all the time. You don't necessarily know a lot about bioweapons because you've been
Cope harder, they will say that the destruction of Israel was a Jewish conspiracy. Yeah, probably. Unironically, they would. They say now Jews can be dispersed around the world again. They can use both the Holocaust and now their second Holocaust, the destruction of Israel, as a new reason for why we have to feel so fucking bad for them. And now instead of us being able to tell the Jews that they can all go run off to one country, now they have an excuse to be parasitic leeches that are controlling the countries all over the world that they now find themselves in. And they've got a new Holocaust that they can appeal to solicit endless sympathy from the public for it, which makes it impossible to criticize them even more. We're going to be considered anti-Semitic even more than we were before. And now if we criticize Jews, that we can't even say that like, well, no, we're just being critical of like Zionist policy or whatever. Now, since there's no more country left, now every single criticism of a Jew has to be anti-Semitic. So they have like the best argumentative strategy going forward. It's like, yeah.
researching it for a couple years for a book. You also could be researching nonsense. So it doesn't really mean anything. Let's listen to what he said.
And you know, the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically.
Remember, bro, fuck. I'm actually losing it. This is my last year of streaming. I'm actually losing it. Remember that these people believe that Boeing, okay? These people believe that Boeing, okay? $113 billion company, Boeing is assassinating people who are whistleblowers. However, you can walk around saying shit like this without even having fucking private security. Not a fear in the world. Not a single scare in your mind. Okay? Boeing is assassinating whistleblowers, but you can talk openly about how the government is secretly bioengineering viruses to selectively kill people around the planet.
In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are...
You know what people do when they actually think there's like people getting assassinated? What is this guy, when he's talking, what do you see this guy broadcasting from? Do you see him in the Gaza Strip? Do you see him in Tel Aviv or Ramallah? No. Motherfucker's over in Qatar, okay? There's a reason why. Because the Mossad would kill him if they had the ability to. If they knew who this motherfucker was, they would kill him over there, okay? They would, okay? There's a reason why you know why people go into exile? It's because they know that if they stay at a particular place, they're going to get fucking killed. You know why Yanukovych fled Ukraine, okay, when the Beirut or whatever the fuck were shooting? Because he knew that if he stayed there, he was going to fucking die. You know why Saddam Hussein was hiding in a fucking hole? Do you know why fucking Bin Laden was at first in Afghanistan and then in fucking Pakistan? The reason why these people hide is they know they're going to be assassinated, okay? The fact that people say shit like this and they're just like, oh, they go to dinners and they're in public and blah, blah, blah. Like, really? Wait, this super spooky government that's willing to murder so many of its own citizens and has all these conspiracies and is killing all these people with impunity and has no problem covering up any infinite amount of things. Why would you walk around publicly saying this shit unless you know it's all fucking bullshit? Unless you know it's bullshit. So nobody gets assassinated unless they hide before? Brother, what are you saying? Can you not, what? What is Lil Bro's point? Is this that hard to understand? If you are genuinely saying that a government is capable of doing such things, usually your actions follow your rhetoric, okay? Usually you're going to be probably hiding from the government or doing the best you can to minimize the chance of you getting murdered by the government because you think they can legitimately do that. The United States what did he say in some of these other things? Is one of the biggest war profiteers, is one of the worst countries in the world for this. Go to North Korea and criticize Kim. Go to Russia and in the right spots and criticize Putin. Or go to any dictatorship or any authoritarian regime and go and criticize their leaders openly, like in the public. Like,
Because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors.
By the way, the guy sitting next to him seems very skeptical about what's being said.
The ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
Now, you heard that, right? COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted.
Then the woman to his left is like, I'm going to have to take a drink after hearing that.
That or not, but there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential kind of impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA.
By the way, continuing to call it the Ukraine at this point in time, but we're not even going to get into that. So we're going to be...
I don't know if that's intentional or not. I'm leaning towards now. This is like the year of malice, ascribing malice, because I think in the past 5 years I've been way too lenient on it. I don't remember the reason why, but when you refer to it as the Ukraine, it's supposed to be like an insult. It's like the N-word for a country, but not really. Can somebody explain why this is? The Ukraine Oblast. It has something to do with like asserting Russia is like the rightful owner or something. I just don't remember the language reason why. In the English-speaking world in Western 20th century, Ukraine, whether independent or not, was referred to as the Ukraine. This is because the word Ukraine, Ukraina, or Ukraina means borderland. So the definite article would be natural in the English language. This is similar to Nederlanden, which means lowlands and is rendered in English as the Netherlands. However, since Ukraine's declaration of independence in 1991, this usage has become politicized and is now rare, and style guides advise against its use. Gotcha. So that the Ukraine implies disregard for Ukrainian sovereignty. The official Ukrainian position is that the Ukraine is both grammatically and politically incorrect. Fix your Discord and policies, because when people are bullied in your Discord, they're not allowed to retaliate. Bullies have immunity, and you're allowing it. I'm sorry, Leora Avigil. Destiny, it's not a thing. People just pearl clutch over it, translating to border region from Russian. I'm pretty sure it is a thing, because I think I heard Ukrainians complaining about it more than anybody else. I think I did. Like a couple years ago on Twitter, I thought that's where I heard it coming from. That and changing Kiev to Kyiv instead. There needs to be like a fucking satire. like if it was like I want to see Nasrallah like walking around Tel Aviv being like, the Mossad is killing everybody. They're going to try. Like, bro, what are you doing? God, it's so stupid. It's okay. Okay. What's Ben Burgess doing? This is a great video. Someone put together a montage of pro-Israel talking points from the Omniliberals debates with me and Nathan J. Robinson with eerily similar white nationalist talking points people used to throw at him back when he was debating far-right weirdos all the time. First of all, 5-minute video. Oh, it's this Destiny vs. Destiny channel. Nice. Why do you think it would be fair to compare statements about a Western country and the expectations that country would have to a country in a totally different region of the world facing a totally different set of problems with a different history? Seriously, question mark? You said that Biden could kill Trump and nothing would happen to him. Have you considered that civil war is an actual option that USA would choose? So no president would do something like that. So what you said makes no sense. What I said was you could do it without criminal liability. Obviously, there could theoretically be a million other things that would happen. Why are you donating to me in euros? Stop caring about our elections. Fuck you. How do I set my stream to America only? Bro, that's a Tsui conversation. Somebody made that post in that subreddit, and this has been like living in my mind rent free. I cannot believe I just didn't know at the time because I didn't know the electorate thing. The electorate plan, this was the plan. And he was so cognizant of it all. And it comes right before he makes this line. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. That right before this, he says, because you'll never take back our country with weakness, you have to show strength, you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. He's talking about the whole scheme. Oh. I think that if you don't see this as as an insurrection, there's nothing. You won't see anything as it. You won't. There's just nothing you'll see. You can't, except for maybe a full-on, the president grabs an AK-47 and runs into the Capitol. But maybe you wouldn't even see that. Just to be clear, everyone knew about this plot as it was happening. It was reported on widely. I hard disagree. It might have been being reported on widely, or as in there were a few articles about it, but I don't think very many people were talking about this at all. The fact that every time I bring it up, that's great that you can link me one article. Thanks, bud. But the fact that basically every single time I bring this up, almost nobody has heard of it before. And even today, my guess is less than 20% of Americans are even aware of this. It's probably not even the fault of the reporting. It's more so the fact that people just don't know how our election system works. Love your stuff, by the way. I'm just bored. LOL. I am following a long time. Cool. Okay. Okay, let's try to get through this in 2 days, okay? Do you see the $20 dono in Destiny GG? No. Are you taking more people in the disagreements channel today? No, when I do the disagreements channel, the point is supposed to be to disagree on whatever the current relevant topic is. But the vast majority of people using that channel are just, one, they don't have a real disagreement, or two, they want to talk about something from stream from 3 weeks ago, or it's just not. It's donation. I think the current way you attempt to change minds and communities is not as effective as it was. I'm glad to hear you're looking to be a bit more confrontation in conversations. I'm in disagreements. You're free to chat about it for a minute. Oh, I don't care. I can't. There might be a more optimal way to do it, but I can't. I cannot endure the psychic trauma right now. I can't. I just can't do it. I either need to be on some other type of drug permanently, like MDMA all day, or, yeah. Okay. Okay. Start. How long does your 5 minutes last you? I don't know, 12 hours, right? If Bernie becomes Dem nominee, do you think he destroys Trump? Absolutely not. Bernie Sanders, he's way too progressive. I'd vote for him over Trump, though, 1,000,000,000%. It wouldn't be a question in my mind. I would vote for him abso-fucking-lutely. And I would campaign for him, too. Whoever, if they swap out Biden, just to be one more time to be clear, because people think I have some like huge attachment to Biden. I don't. I just want to win the election. If the Dems put up almost anybody else, whether it's Newsom, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, Nina Turner, Michelle Obama, whoever the fuck else, right? Even I think it's a bad idea. I will support whoever the fuck that candidate is. I will support it 1,000,000,000,000,000% unquestionably. Like, I will support whatever candidate it like ends up getting put up. Well, I mean, unless it's a legitimately fucking atrociously terrible, horrible candidate. Like if it was RFK versus Trump. Actually, no. Actually, I think I would have to dig into RFK a lot more. I would lean 99% to RFK, though. I think I would. Right now, it wouldn't even be a question in my mind, actually, because there are things in my mind that are fucking retarded. So being an anti-vaxxer and conspiratorial and blah, 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 like all those things are retarded. However, these are, in my mind, legitimate positions that you could inhabit in the total political paradigm that represents American politics. I think that there is space for people like that who I wholeheartedly fucking disagree with in every single conceivable way. For Donald Trump, it's the election stuff and the coup stuff is too much. That stuff that for me is like I don't even think. I think you should like be kicked out of the country. I'll say that. Okay. Do you think we should just not read the syllabus if we're going to be reading the opinion anyway? How long did the high last when you first took Vyvanse? I don't think I ever really got high on Vyvanse because I'd already been on Adderall for a bit before that. Syllabus. Note, where it is feasible, a syllabus headnote will be released as is being done in connection with this case. At the time the opinion is issued, the syllabus constitutes no part of the opinion of the court, but has been prepared by the reporter of decisions for the convenience of the reader. So when you read Supreme Court decisions, the syllabus is it's like a summary, it's like an executive summary kind of the opinion itself, but the syllabus is not written by anybody on the Supreme Court, just to be clear, so you're aware of that. But the syllabus can give you like a good summary of what the opinion will be, just so you know. But yeah, not canon. So we'll skip the syllabus. We don't need to read this. Or maybe we'll come back and read it at the end. Does Destiny actually answer to paid comments on YouTube? I read everything, okay. Should we not read the original Chevron case before? I don't know, bro. What? What do you want? Well, we can read the original. What was the name for the original? Love Strudel, you're in. Oof, your chances are slipping away. Rip. He said give him 5 minutes. Well. Okay, the primary holding in Chevron. This is a case that was decided in '84. A government agency must conform to any clear legislative statements when interpreting and applying a law, but courts will give the agency deference in ambiguous situations as long as its interpretation is reasonable. So we'll read through this decision to give you, this is just like my inferencing, and this is my going off of headlines. I don't have a deep understanding of this. I haven't read this. However, my understanding is basically the legislature, so Congress, might pass a law, maybe creating an office, maybe not, but they might pass a law saying you need to enforce no more no more guns, okay, in the United States, no more fully automatic weapons in the United States or something, right? Maybe Congress passed a law like that, okay? And now you've got an agency. I don't know if this would go to the FBI or the ATF maybe or whatever, but whichever agency is tasked with enforcing that, they might look at what came from the legislature and they might say, oh, okay, they said fully automatic weapons are banned. Well, there's like a bump stock or there's something that makes a weapon fully automatic. Even though the legislature didn't give us explicit permission to go after that, we're going to go after that too because we think that that's the best way to adhere to what the legislature is saying we should do, essentially. I think that's arguably what this holding was saying. And then what this decision a few days ago was supposed to overturn, I guess a couple weeks ago at this point, is supposed to say, well, no, executive agencies actually have far less lenience than they thought, and the legislature needs to be far more explicit over what they're allowed to do. Liberals are asked mad about this ruling because they think that they just think it means less regulations, I guess. And conservatives are happy about this ruling because they think it means less regulations and something separation of powers. I don't fucking know. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't have a strong opinion on it before or after. I think I can understand in principle with like the headlines I've read about the prior ruling in '84 for Chevron that, yeah, federal agencies probably do need some deference because the legislature is not going to spell out exactly every single use case scenario. But I don't know how far that has been restricted or what the rationale was. So we're going to find out in here. Supreme Court of the United States. Loper Bright Enterprises et al. Are the petitioners versus Gina Raimondo, the Secretary of Commerce, on writ of certiorari to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Relentless Inc. et al. Petitioners versus Department of Commerce et al. On writ of certiorari to the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit. So the D.C. Circuit and the First Circuit were the two circuits that heard these cases. Apparently both of them have been appealed up to the Supreme Court, and I guess the Supreme Court is dealing with them simultaneously, probably because they're dealing with the same type of issue, I guess. I disagree with the notion this hurts the country because there aren't conservative pro-state rights and decreasing executive powers, or have they drank too much of the Trump Kool-Aid? Because aren't conservatives pro-state rights and decreasing executive powers? I'm so sorry. I can't even interpret your statement. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just having a day. June 28th, 2024. After this ruling, would Trump be immune if he ordered the head of the IRS to confiscate the assets of a business competition of his or her family member? I don't know. Okay. Chief Justice Roberts delivered the opinion of the court. Okay. Majority written by Chief Justice, is it John Roberts? I like to write their full names just so that I know. Do we know all the Supreme Court justices now after the one case? I don't think so. It's okay. On the conservative side, you've got Roberts, Thomas, Barrett, Kavanaugh. Roberts, Thomas, Barrett, Kavanaugh. Fuck, the other names never show up. What the fuck? What on the liberal side, you've got Sotomayor, Brown. Wait, is it Brown Jackson or Jackson Brown, Ketanji, whatever? And then Kagan, right? I'm missing one. Who was concurring with? I don't remember. Fuck. Who am I missing? Gorsuch. Oh, fuck, Gorsuch. Oh, and Alito. Gorsuch and Alito. Oh, duh. Okay. They just didn't write anything for the last one. Okay. Okay. Last try. Hopefully it's not bugged anymore. Okay, I'll drag you up after I read 10 pages, okay? Oh my god, it's Kyle. Holy shit. I feel like I haven't talked to you in like 3 years. What's up? Chief Justice Roberts delivered the opinion of the court. Since our decision in Chevron, USA Inc. v. Natural Resources Defense Council Inc., 467 U.S. 837, 1984. Okay, so that means that the volume, if you were to look this up in the books, the volume is volume 467, and it would be page 837 is where this opinion starts, right? We have sometimes required courts to defer to permissible agency interpretations of the statutes those agencies administer, even when a reviewing court reads the statute differently. In these cases, we consider whether that doctrine should be overruled. Okay, interesting. I mean, those who like Trump because they hate Biden's executive orders see how this only benefits the executive branch and screws the rest of us. Listen, people, here's the reality. People like executive orders when they're doing them for things that they like. People don't like executive orders when they do things that they don't like, okay? When Trump is being wild with his executive powers and doing like fucking immigration policy and shit with it, all the Republicans clap and cheer, even though they traditionally say they don't like it. I guess Democrats don't usually say they like small government, but like there are probably things that Obama did with executive orders that, in my opinion, are fucking wild. I don't know how the fuck, like DACA, I have no fucking idea how the fuck that ever passes as an executive order when the executive is solo doing immigration policy. That seems unbelievable to me. And the ACA was legislature and the executive. I think it was challenged on constitutional grounds. I think it largely survived. I don't know enough about why that would or wouldn't be constitutional. So ACA doesn't count. But yeah, DACA seems pretty insane to me that, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Our Chevron doctrine requires courts, Strudel, I'll drag you in 10 minutes, okay? If you've got 30 minutes, okay. Our Chevron doctrine requires courts to use a two-step framework to interpret statutes administered by federal agencies. After determining, it is John Roberts, okay. After determining that a case satisfies the various preconditions we have set for Chevron to apply, a reviewing court must first assess whether Congress has directly spoken to the precise question at issue. If and only if congressional intent is clear, that is the end of the inquiry. But if the court determines that the statute is silent or ambiguous with respect to the specific issue at hand, the court must, at Chevron's second step, defer to the agency's interpretation if it is based on a permissible construction of the statute. The reviewing courts in each of the cases before us applied Chevron's framework to resolve a favor of the government challenges to the same agency rule. So let's write that down. Okay, reference to the 1984 Chevron case, citing the two-step rule process. First, after a challenge to a particular, what would you say call this, an executive action? Challenge a particular issue of executive enforcement, of executive agency enforcement, the court must see if Congress has explicitly spoken about the issue at hand. Secondly, the court must then determine if the answer is no in the first part, if the executive agency's interpretation of Congress's order is permissible based on the legislated statutes. Okay. Before 1976, unregulated foreign vessels dominated fishing in the international waters off the U.S. coast, which began just 12 nautical miles offshore. Recognizing the resultant overfishing and the need for sound management of fishery resources, Congress enacted the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Conservation and Management Act. The MSA and subsequent amendments extended the jurisdiction of the United States to 200 nautical miles beyond the U.S. territorial sea and claimed exclusive fishery management authority over all fish within that area, known as the Exclusive Economic Zone. Damn, the U.S. just made this law for ourselves to extend our international borders? Hello. Based alert. The National Marine Fisheries Service administers the MSA under a delegation from the Secretary of Commerce. Okay. Okay. So that we understand all of these things. So the Secretary of Commerce this is a cabinet level, right? All of the secretary people are considered cabinet members, right? Or no? Wait, am I wrong? Hold on, fuck me. Oh no, secretary might be the officer, right? Like your Secretary of State is not a... Wait, is it? Hold on, fuck me. Bro, okay. Cabinet members, Wikipedia USA. Is the cabinet just the head of every single office? Like your officers are your cabinet people, right? Secretary of State. Oh, okay, it is. Okay. Oh, okay. This makes more sense. Okay. Okay, Secretary of State, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of Defense. Okay, so this is the Secretary of Commerce. Is the head of the Department of Commerce. Okay. Is the head of the Department of Commerce. And then within the Department of Commerce, the National Marine Fisheries Service administers the MSA under a delegation from the Secretary of Commerce. So would this be, this service, would this be like a new branch created underneath, or is it just like its own side thing? National Marine, oh, here it is, okay. Okay, so this is the structure. You've got the Secretary of Commerce, and then they're allowed to have, what do you call the officer of the officer? There's a name for, like, is it interior officer? The Secretary of Commerce, I think they get to choose their other officers. And then under that, they've got the Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere. And then, so Congress passed a law called the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Conservation and Management Act, and that's enforced by the National Marine Fisheries Service. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. When was this created? In 1871. Okay. Let me just do a quick reading. Okay. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. He shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. Officers are his heads of agency. So his officers are his cabinet members, right? whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, which shall be established by law, but the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the president alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of department. Okay. So when Congress creates a department or an office, then Congress may by law vest the appointments of such inferior officers as they deem proper. Either the president can choose, the courts can choose, or the department heads themselves can choose. Okay. So when they say, when you say by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, does that mean with 51% of a Senate vote? Could take more formal person defining the line between principal and inferior officers, holding that an inferior officer is one whose work is directed and supervised at some level by others who are appointed by presidential nominations with the advice and consent of the Senate. Does the president need to have his cabinet approved by the Senate? Is that a thing? Because that, by the reading of that, that seems like it would be the case. Or is it just like people like generally just always approve of the president's cabinet? Is the presidential cabinet approved by the Senate? It would have to be, right? The cabinet is an advisory body made by the heads of the 15 executive departments appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate. Oh, okay. And Senate confirmation is just 51 votes, right? The political assassination argument doesn't make much sense to me. If the president can't even suspend habeas corpus without a congressional act, why would he be allowed to assassinate citizens? Probably because he comes so hard that he blows your mom's head off when she's trying to suck his dick. Oh, but you don't need Senate confirmation for an acting head. Okay, true, okay. What do you want? Love strudel.
Can I unmute? Testing?
What do you want? It's just Discord. It can't be that hard.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hey, man. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Yo. Thank you. I just want to come in and talk to you about kind of your approach to conversations briefly. And I think that your current way of...
Go, just give me the credit. I understand you don't like it. What would you change?
Okay. Yeah, it's not that I don't like it. I just think you'd be a little bit more effective. So,
Yep, go.
a while ago, you transitioned from...
Yep, I don't need the history. Just give me the thing. I don't have much time. I don't want to sit here. Go. Run it through.
Yeah,
go
no
ahead.
worries. All right. So what is your new strategy going into conversations now? You said you're changing your approach.
I'm gonna start quizzing people more. I'm gonna start holding people more accountable for not knowing things, and I'm gonna force people to enunciate positions more. Yeah.
Great. What do you mean by quizzing people?
As in, when I was on the Hodge twins, it was very irritating to me that we were debating over the Trump indictments, and then I asked them, "Have you read any of the indictments?" And they both said no. That's very fucking annoying to me. Yes. So from now on, if somebody wants to have, especially because I've got like the reputation of just being a Wikipedia warrior or whatever, if people are going to say I'm retarded, okay, fine. Then when I debate your favorite internet guy, well, I'm going to ask him like a basic question like, do you even understand how this works? Can you explain to me this particular thing? Pisco did it yesterday to Zetsui when he said, when they say throw it back to the House delegation, do you know what that means? I think that these are going to be important things to spell out because now I want people to see that, okay, well, your internet guys that you guys are listening to, they haven't done any of the basic reading, research, homework on this. They don't even deserve to have a fucking opinion on it, but...
Love it. Totally agree. Do you think that the way you phrase and expose that is important?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because I find that, so one of the things that I feel like is relatively ineffective is that you'll, instead of asking the question, you sort of like presuppose the answer in your question. So sometimes, like, I think you just did it in your example. You're like, do you even know X, right? Or do you even know Y? Instead of just saying like, okay, what is X or what is Y? Can you explain to me X? Can you explain to me Y? Because I think it comes off as a lot less condescending, and it also puts more pressure on them.
Sure, but I don't. But usually that question is only going to follow if they've already like failed in some basic metric. I wouldn't just be like, okay, hey, let's talk about the Trump indictments. Have you guys read the indictments? Or maybe I guess you could if you asked it very neutrally like that. But if you're only asking this question because the person is like demonstrated like a significant gap in knowledge about a particular thing that I would expect them to know if we were talking about a particular thing.
Totally, yeah, which most people do, right? Fair?
Maybe, yeah, depending
Like
on the
most,
thing, sure.
yeah, most of the people well, at least most of the people you're having a confrontation or an argument with, most of the time aren't in the factual right because, you've done a ton of research into it. And usually if you're arguing that particular thing, I think you even said, you're not really willing to argue something unless you have a strong factual understanding of it. Fair?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that you like get 80% of the way there, and then the final step is like, okay, you don't know what this thing is. How did you come to the conclusion that you have then, right? So like, I see this done a ton, and I have some, just like some schizo ramblings. Actually, I was gonna make a post, but it was just, a lot of work and effort. And
Okay. One of the things that when you guys come on, you give me advice for things. I think you guys you get in the shower and you imagine all these like epic owning questions, either having not been aware that I've asked these before or not aware of like how people are likely to answer. So when you say like, oh, how did you come to these like conclusions? In your mind, you're thinking like, oh my God, like it's going to reveal that the other person is going to say something like, wow, I actually didn't do much individual reading or research on this at all. Like, yeah, I guess I really don't have a good reason to be as high in my conviction for this belief as you've now made me aware of. Thank you so much,
No,
Destiny, for asking
they're
me.
not going to come to that realization, but their answer is going to reveal that, and you're going to have to probe harder. And
I already know
expose
the
that in
answer
front
though.
of them,
Every
right?
single time, I will always know the answer. If you want, we can set up on conversational ask. The question will be, okay, well, how did you come to this? How did you come to this conclusion? And the answer that they're going to give is they're going to say, have you not seen like the reports in the media? I've seen this on CNN and Fox News. People on Joe Rogan have talked about it. They'll name the official retard that went on Joe Rogan. Didn't you see Dr. Sylvester Bugs Bunny go on and he literally explained all of these studies and blah, blah, blah. The problem when they ask you that question is they respond, they're not going to be stumped. They're going to have a response and they're going to say a lot of shit. And the audience has probably also seen or heard about all these things. So now that I've asked that question, what I've actually done is I've just expanded the plate of bullshit that I have to chew through to even begin to have the conversation with them, because now they've invoked like 15 other things that I have to debunk.
Yeah, I think that's a fair concern. I think that I think you can effectively, relatively hand wave all of that, because if you're pulling factual information from more reliable sources, then I think you can say, okay, you heard that on Joe Rogan. Why does all of these experts, I mean, you have like a pretty comprehensive list of notes for the Supreme Court rulings or the Trump indictments, whatever it might be. How come in the indictments it's explicitly laid out here that X is true when you're claiming Y is true? So you can I don't think you have to pick apart each individual crazy claim.
Yeah, but they're just going to say because it's bullshit, because he's being set up. Like true, like Russiagate was true, like the Mueller investigation was true. Didn't you see what they said about those FISA warrants? Those weren't true. Why would I assume that everything in this indictment is true if they lied to get FISA warrants? And that's in congressional testimony.
Okay, so they might say that, and then what would be the next step, right? So the next step would be I don't trust this because I feel like the Mueller investigation didn't yield, the convictions that everybody expected they were to convict. So then, therefore, you came to the conclusion that they're all fake. Connect those dots for me, right? So I feel like there's a
yeah,
step.
I did. I don't believe in any of these organizations anymore. That's one of the reasons why I support Donald Trump, because I think we need to dramatically reform or take apart almost all of these executive bodies. I don't think any of them are serving the interests of the American people anymore.
Well, I think if you get them to that, I think that is wholly unconvincing to 85%.
That's literally what 85% of the people are voting on. Why do you think people vote for Trump? When he says take apart the swamp and the deep state, what do you think they're talking about? That's exactly what they're talking about.
Well, I think you can see the did you see he's disavowing Project 2025 and shit recently?
Sure.
So, I think that there is clear ignorance to the overall goal of dismantling these institutions and things like that. I think people are frustrated, and right, Trump was sort of the populist embodiment of a lot of frustration built up over time, but the actual solutions that he's proposing are fucking wild. And I think most people, when seeing them, and yeah, obviously the extreme people that are gonna suck his dick to the end of the earth aren't gonna care, but the people in the middle, the people who didn't vote for him in 2020, that voted for him in 2016 or didn't show up in 2016, whatever, those people are not going to be swayed by I don't trust anything or anybody, right? And then if they do
I think this is
all you have to say is, okay, never get on an airplane ever again, never go to the hospital ever again, right?
No, but they'll say, I trust the airplane, I trust the hospital because I can see it work. I can see the airplane work. I see the airplane fly, so I know that I can trust that. Show me what I can trust from the FBI. What about the $1 billion that the Pentagon lost in its budget? You don't have any insight into any of those agencies whatsoever. We literally have to FOIA request those things, and when we get them back, half of it comes back redacted.
Yeah, there's always sort of, let's say they pivot like that, right? Okay, I see the airplane fly or whatever. Okay, can you explain to me the maintenance process, the vetting process, the regulations that these planes have to go through in order to make sure and like be maintained in order for them to be able to fly? No, you can't, because you take those for granted. You take those agencies for granted. And
yeah, but maybe we shouldn't take them for granted. Look at the 737 Maxes that Boeing is flying now that are crashing and killing people all over the world. Isn't that just more examples of how even these agencies you say are so important? How would they let something like that happen just because Boeing wants to make more money?
Yeah, and then you bring up the classic example, just because you die in a car accident while you're wearing your seatbelt, does that mean you should never wear your seatbelt? Right? I feel like that's easily refutable. Right? There's 37 million planes in the sky, or whatever the fuck number is per year. Right? How many of those actually end in fatal car accidents? How many domestic fatal airplane accidents have we had in the last 15 years? None? One, maybe? So it's like, I mean, you can just play the numbers game when it comes to that, and yeah, they'll be able to pull out like anecdotes here and there.
I think the issue is that
I still feel like most people find that wholly unconvincing.
I'm glad that you live in a world where that is the case for the people that you talk to, but for the people over here, that's just not the way. Like every single time I hop on from point to point to point, in your mind, I might be building an argument, but in their mind, I'm getting raped on every single point. Like I'll be like, well, okay, well, what about like the FBI? You don't trust any of these agencies? No, they're all filled with deep state agents. Look at Russiagate. Boom. Destiny. What? Wait, where is it? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, but wait. So you're saying like you don't trust any of these agencies ever? Like, and
then you would be like, look, let's examine the absurdity
no.
of that
Hold on.
statement,
You don't understand. When every single time I hop from point to point to point to point to point, I'm losing. I'm not setting up or building a larger argument. The audience is watching me getting smacked around on every single point. Like that absolutely is true.
I get what you're
I'm getting annihilated on every point. Yes.
I get what you're saying. I think it depends, and I understand why you say that. I don't think it comes off as you losing a point. Here's why I say that. This is like a OG reference, but like I've got just a bunch of examples listed here. The John debate, right? You like notoriously or famously pretty much just eviscerated that guy's career for a good period of time, right? He might be back
in our circles of the internet, but if you go and you look at that video, I think it's got 50% likes, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's not indicative of your success in the conversation.
No, but the only thing that matters is people's perception of the success, right? So in your mind, that's a conversation where I clearly and obviously eviscerated a guy, and I think it's 50% thumbs down.
Well, yeah, but the thumbs downing, I don't think necessarily indicates the general perception, right? Like people can get ass mad and thumbs down a video into oblivion. But to your point, when people don't have substantive disagreements of you and they're just attacking you or your wife or your son or whatever it might be, that demonstrates and I think shows other people that maybe aren't as far gone as that individual person. But it's going to show people that are on the edge, teetering one way or the other. That's absurd, right? And I think in the perfect example of this happening is like I think you even said this multiple times when people have brought it up to you in the past, where people have been like, oh, you fucking eviscerated John or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is you didn't really. You just asked him questions and you had him fucking kill himself, right? All you did was say, hey, can you explain what you mean by that? What do you mean by like racial purity or whatever the fuck he said, right? Like there was a bunch of things that you brought up over and over again where you're just essentially asking him to explain his absurd point. You did this with Ben Shapiro more recently, right? Okay, what do you mean you hold Trump to a different standard? Wait, what do you mean? You said you're holding him to a similar standard as your kids, a fucking child that is, the president of the United States? This is an absurd statement. Defend this. And he can't. And he obviously looks bewildered and he looks horrible. And that gets clipped and that gets put on TikTok and that persuades a ton of people. Are you going to persuade the diehard Trump supporters? No. Are you going to just persuade the diehard Ben Shapiro supporters? No. But there's a ton of people in the middle that you're capturing there by exposing that cognitive dissonance, I think.
Okay. I'll keep it in mind.
You don't think so? I take it.
Well, listen, it's in the back of my mind, okay?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. I'm just looking through my shit. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the time, and with the Vyvanse, God bless it, because I'm recently also a ADHD combator/survivor, so I'm right with you there. But I think it brings you to a high level of motivation to fight on these factual claims because you're correct on them. But the problem is like if people are able to obfuscate or distract or whatever it might be away from those factual claims, then you just get bogged down in sort of like this, like, relatively like vacuous, arguments around, conspiracies and things like that. I think just pointing out the thought process is just like so much more effective. And it's one of the reasons why I was, and again, I'm obviously speaking from my personal experience, but like from my experience and from what I've seen others and in terms of people you've interacted with, I do think that that it's much more persuasive to go that route, to explore that,
Okay, I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, all right. Well, I appreciate you dragging me in, man. But yeah, you've been very impactful to me, and I think to a lot of people. And I know you don't like the glazing, but I felt it was important for me to express this because, yeah, I think I really appreciate what you do.
Gotcha. I love you. Bye. Okay. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Fuck. Where were we? Cabinet. Okay. We understand now. Cabinet approved. Senate. Got it. Boom. Okay.